Our very first trip to the hospital, we stayed in a Hilton hotel, and we found that 6 families sleeping in their cars. What we do each month is we spend about 63% of our programming towards rent for cancer patients. About 12% of our programming goes to nutrition. What we know for a fact is that good nutrition, good food costs a little bit more, but it's critical to a patient undergoing care. The financial component is something that I think everybody can understand. Imagine not being able to, and you've got cancer.
Welcome to our Afluencer podcast, where we connect influencers and creators with not only up-and-coming brands, but up-and-coming charities and great causes. And that's what we have today with Dan Hubbard. He's the director of 4Amanda. It's a charity focused on getting direct financial support to cancer patients. Something Dan unfortunately has experience with, not from the financial side, but on the cancer treatment side, and kind of saw firsthand how difficult it was for patients to get proper care. So 4Amanda is an awesome charity that really helps people who are going through the cancer treatment process get money and how to get money directly to the people that need it. So really a great cause, and also an opportunity for our influencers and creators to share and to help this great cause. And we'll bring on Dan here. So Dan, thanks so much for joining us today. And can you hopefully I did a decent enough job at the intro here, but can you tell us a little bit more about the mission and objectives of 4Amanda?
Sure. So Amanda and I were quite fortunate when she received her cancer diagnosis. We had great insurance, we had good employment, and we had a good support structure from family and friends. But what we learned, starting from our very first trip for her having her port installed and then starting her infusion, was a lot of cancer patients are not fortunate. Our very first trip to the hospital, we stayed in a Hilton hotel, and we found that, I think it was 6 families sleeping in their cars. And the hotel was allowing them to do that. But the choice was pay for the fuel and food and these sorts of things to get to the destination, or stay in a hotel. They couldn't do both. We heard horrific stories of bankruptcies and, not being able to afford rent because of the high cost that comes along with a cancer diagnosis. In the healthcare industry, it's called financial toxicity in cancer care. It's interesting, Amanda received her treatment at Duke, and 2 researchers at Duke about 15 years ago coined that phrase, financial toxicity. So what we do each month is we spend about 63% of our programming towards rent for cancer patients. And that often includes utilities as well. About 12% of our programming goes to nutrition. What we know for a fact is that good nutrition, good food costs a little bit more, but it's critical to a patient undergoing care. And then we have programming that also pays for phone bills. Maybe the patient needs a very comfortable mattress because of the chemotherapy deteriorating their body. So it's, we cover the planned and the unplanned. And we've been doing it since, officially we started while Amanda was still alive in January of 2022. And we got our IRS determination in December of 2022, and we've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome in terms of, the support that you provide. What are the costs, I guess, just to give me an idea of the ballpark? Are we talking, I can only imagine, but these got to be like 5-figure kind of costs. Are you looking at starting it in the tens of thousands of dollars with the diagnosis that these families have to deal with and handle, I guess, on their own if they don't have the insurance coverage, as you mentioned?
Yes, that's a really important question. And it really comes down to the type of cancer someone has, but also their genetics. So Amanda, her genetic makeup and the makeup of the cancer qualified her to take an immunotherapy called panitumumab. And some insurance companies don't pay for A, the genetic testing, or B, the immunotherapies. So on kind of the low end, such as panitumumab, you're looking, I can buy them actually in bulk for patients at about $700 each. Individual patient that would have to buy one every other week would pay about $1,200. Well, you're going to be taking between 6 and 9 weeks of those. So that's very costly.
So you're actually buying them in bulk on your end, and then
yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
But there's insurance doesn't cover nutrition shakes, right? So a case of Boost, $30-$40. And if that's one of your main intake pathways for protein, then your nutritionist and your oncologist are going to want you to have at least 3 a day, right? And a lot of families look at that and they think, wow, that's taking food out of the mouths of my children. So we step in, and every month we send out probably about 50 or so cases of Boost from Amazon.
Yeah, cool.
But patients are driving on average 200 miles round trip to get to treatment.
Oh, is that because they got to find the specific?
Yeah, I mean, you need to get to a place of care.
Yep.
And so, this involves wear and tear on their vehicle, gasoline, obviously. I cannot tell you how many windshields we've repaired. So, you've got all these costs and they add up. And one of the really unfortunate things is, a lot of the patients we serve are not under the poverty level. They're closer to 50,000. And it's difficult for them to qualify for social services. And the sad thing is they're amassing a ton of debt. So that ratio is really far off. One of the other things that we try and focus on, and we're doing a lot better job, is a lot of patients are traveling with children. And that can happen during the school year. It can happen, during the summer, obviously, as well. Well, those children do need something to do. So we're trying to team up with different organizations, local to different hospital systems, and maybe get them to a movie, right? Something like this, give them a little bit of enrichment, because emotionally it's really hard on them as well. So we're starting to focus more on that as our programming dollars increase.
Yeah, that's a cool benefit of the dollars coming from you, is that you as a human being know how to allocate it, and that they need these shakes, and the kids gotta send them to go see a movie, right? Versus having to get this stuff reimbursed is just what a nightmare, right? With the red tape, I guess, is you can get around that. You can allocate it as you see fit versus just that bureaucratic mess that you experience. How do you connect with the families, Dan, in terms of who needs help? Do they know? Do they come? How do they find you to apply for help?
Yeah. So what we've tried to do a good job at is get close to hospital systems. Sometimes it's just, sometimes it's as simple as just finding some licensed clinical social workers that are on, some hospital system's website. Just shoot them an email and saying, look, we're a resource. Do us a favor. If you think that a patient might later suffer from financial toxicity, send them to us now. Let us get them in the system, because if ultimately what happens too frequently is a family will get to us when they have late fees, disconnect fees, these sorts of things. And of course we cover them, but we'd rather not. We would rather pay for things before they get too bad. There's a lot of just organic based organizations pretty much in every state that we've reached out to and said, look, we'd love to do it for everyone, but we only serve cancer patients. If you come across one, and you can tell us, look, they've been either pre-qualified or pre-screened, get them to share that data with us, and then we don't have to spend a lot of time doing the same thing. Hospital systems in particular are really, really good at taking a holistic approach to that evaluation. They don't just use the poverty level, because the poverty level is not a good barometer for financial toxicity. Like I said, most of the patients we serve, their incomes are up around $50,000.
Yeah, I got you. No, that makes, I mean, if you're paycheck to paycheck, you're paycheck to paycheck, or if you don't, I mean, maybe that's not even fair to say, but if you don't have this large pile of cash reserve, which if you're middle class, you probably don't, right? And then you get hit with these costs and you have to pay the bills, right? So you're putting them on, I would assume, on credit cards, right? And that's running up, and that's where the toxicity comes in, because now you've got this interest running against you, and it can snowball pretty fast. I mean, I know from starting a company or two on credit cards, it's not good, right? You got to get the money back, but this is not something where there will be a return from a monetary side on the back end, right? There's no cash flow that's going to pay this off. These are expenses, and you're trying to, right, keep someone.
And one of the things that I always ask people to take into consideration is there's a lot of clinical evidence and research that indicates that when a cancer patient is in real financial toxicity, even without bankruptcy, they're 3 times more likely to die. And that's just a real simple fact. And the other thing that I ask people to consider is currently, cancer is the second leading cause of death in the United States. It's just behind heart disease and not far behind it. The expectation is, if not this year, by 2025, cancer will be the leading cause of death in the United States. The reason I ask people to take that into consideration is 1 in 5 people have a personal experience that they can talk about, friend, family member, and imagine the pain and struggle that you're aware of, that they went through, and now add crushing debt to it. And so that's why we do what we do, because ultimately it saves lives.
Tell us a little bit, how can influencers and creators help out here? Obviously, a very important cause. I think it's something that people maybe are not quite, I don't want to say not aware of, but I mean, even myself, like, everything makes perfect sense. This is not something I think about on a day-to-day basis, right? Everything, as I'm reading our notes before we hop on and we start talking, like, yes, of course, it's like yes, these are very expensive treatments, and if you don't have great insurance, there's no way to pay it, and it's a terrible situation. But I'll admit, I didn't wake up this morning thinking about it, right? Until I'm ready to hop on with you, right? So awareness strikes me as a way that the influencers and creators can help out, just talking about this, because it's not like just helping kind of connect the dots, right? Like, hey, there are people out there that are going through this. So am I on the right track in terms of what we're looking for in terms of influencers and creators to help out?
Yeah, so, I have to admit, there's so little that I know about the influence market and vertical. But one thing that I've always found really, really valuable is for an individual that's going to be speaking on our behalf to speak to their audience the way they know their audience wants to be spoken to. And if an influencer is a young woman, then what I would share with that influencer is, look, currently in the United States, women in their 20s and 30s are being diagnosed at mass rates for both colorectal cancer and breast cancer. It's a significant rise leading away from the pandemic. If an influencer, part of their persona is a mother with children, I can tell you that 80% of the cancer patients we serve are women with children. If the influencer is a person of color, I can tell you that 71% of the people we serve are people of color. I can share statistics with an influencer that I think they could find a way to utilize in however they get the message out. Cancer is incredibly unforgiving to everybody. The financial component is something that I think everybody can understand, right? Everyone gets money, everyone gets debt, and everyone has that gut feeling when it's like, oh God, I gotta pay, this huge credit card bill or whatever. It doesn't make you feel good, right? Imagine not being able to, and you've got cancer, right? You're trying to figure out.
Those are probably 2 of the top worst things on everyone knows cancer sucks, and everyone knows that having to pay a high credit card, especially when the high credit card is running against you, the interest, right? That's the worst, really the worst feeling. And
I think something that I'm getting a little bit better at is at the end of every day, I always think about if I get 80 more $10 donations, I can buy a immunotherapy injection for one more patient. If I get $70 donation, that's a hotel room for a family that's traveling to treatment. $40, that's a digital gas card I can send someone for the round trip. We can send digital McDonald's cards, right? So that children can go and get a Happy Meal that are traveling with their parents. So these are the things that I think about. And what I'm trying to do a little bit better job at is sharing that on social media. And certainly I would like influencers to share that as well. I think that it's easy for me to put statistics on my website that says this is who we're serving, this is how we're serving them. But I think something just really small, like, hey, $70 allows a family to not sleep in their car, right? So these are some of the things that I would like influencers to think about. But in my collab, or in our collab, I specified to the influencer, I don't want to tell you how to get this message out. It needs to come from your heart and be communicated to your audience the way you think it needs to be communicated.
And to our influencer and creator viewers and watchers and listeners, we'll get the link to your collab there, Dan, and the 4Amanda collab. We'll get them in the show notes so everyone can click and view the collab and apply. And I think that's a great way of looking at it from the creative standpoint. Is that's what we want, is for the creators to kind of take this and put it into their own word and relate it to their own lives and to communicate it to their followers, right? That's the kind of the beauty of the influencer, micro-influencer world, is that you've got these, people attached to their, they're called followers for a reason, because they're connected with these people, and we want them to help spread the word. So to our influencer and creators out there, we'll get the link to the 4Amanda collab. And then Dan, last one for me, can you give us a look into the future plans and goals for the charity in the years ahead?
Sure. So, one of the things that tends to happen to families and then of course to single mothers is they lose income because they can't work. So what we are trying is put together a gig site so that these patients, while they're traveling or while they're not feeling very well from the effects of chemotherapy, they can work online. So we're going to develop that platform for free. It'll be made available to both the cancer patients that we serve and then cancer patients that are connected with other charities. We've got about a dozen really, really good companies that are going to provide dedicated work to the cancer patients. We've got a really, really good merchant that's going to charge us $0.00, so that if the cancer patient earns $100 is being deposited into an account for them. That way they're not losing small percentages. So this is something that I'm really excited about. We have a grant that covers that. I would also like to say that I'll have more time to get to hospital systems, because I want to meet with oncology department heads and the clinical social worker heads and say, this is who we are, this is what we do. Don't feel like you can't send people to us. We'll help anyone that meets the criteria for help. And I think that if I'm able to spend that time doing that for the rest of the year, we'll save lives, I think, but also we'll avoid some of those fees that I spoke about earlier. So I think these are two goals that I'm looking to accomplish in this fiscal year.
That's awesome. That is a great, end to end on that one. And hats off to you. I don't know how you got a merchant to agree to 0%.
It's not easy.
I can imagine. That's really fantastic. Like you said, $100 going straight to the worker who needs the money. So thanks for sharing, Dan. As always, keep us posted. Let me know how we can help out on our front. If another collab to help that, or just kind of spreading the word about the platform when it's live. Thanks for keeping us posted and involved in the 4Amanda efforts. And again, we'll get the link to the collab here, so influencer and creator friends can apply here. So we have Dan Hubbard again, the director of 4Amanda, and really about the best cause you'll ever hear of. So happy to share this. And thanks so much, Dan, for coming on our platform. It's been really meaningful conversation to have with you. Really appreciate it.
Brett, I appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this.